really interested in this paper because I had already gone through the process. And I was reading along and I came upon this that I found pretty interesting. It said, I have previously written about the challenges that talented women still all too often face in their careers. And then more than that, the author said, I strongly suggest to women students that they examine to what extent prospective mentors have a good track record of having trained successful women scientists. Well, I thought this was a little curious. What challenges was this author talking about? And furthermore, why he had this cautionary tone when he was talking about women and how they're navigating their scientific careers. So I thought I have to get to the bottom of this, and I did what my graduate training had prepared me to do, which is a literature search. And I looked into what is going on with women in STEM. And in general, what I found out really surprised me. The first thing was that the aptitudes and desires of women to be in STEM are still being debated. The second was that even though women are getting more and more training in STEM fields, they're really not getting the top jobs in STEM fields. They're not getting the leadership positions. And the third thing was that there really was evidence that some institutional barriers existed that were preventing women from getting to the top. So from this one email, I had all these thoughts in my head. So one day when I went to lunch with Katharina, I really couldn't help but ask her, do you think there's a problem with women in our department?
Oh, I remember that question just too well. Now, to give you guys a little bit of perspective, I always knew I would be a STEMist. I loved math and science from the get-go, but the person I really drew inspiration from the most is my mom. Sorry. So my mom pursued a PhD, which was really ahead of her time a little bit, in special education. But what struck me the most was that even though she was in education, which is supposedly a female-dominated field, she was asked to be one of the first women to be part of the Bavarian government, the education branch of the government. So needless to say, with all of her experience, my mom really pushed me to be my best and to never let being a woman stop me from pursuing my dreams. So my parents encouraged me to pursue a career in STEM since I love math and science, but I was still a little worried that, all of these stereotypes, and then there's so few women, so I would be alone. But lucky for me, when I went off to undergrad, I joined the Women in Science and Engineering community, which was really a great group of women who were like-minded and very smart and really supporting each other. And we built a wonderful community together that really made me feel supported. But when I came to graduate school, I was let down. That was no longer the case here. And that's really what led to this pivotal conversation that Adriana and I had.
So really, Katharina, do you think there's a problem with women in our department? Or with women in other STEM departments, for that matter? I mean, I know the days of being the lone woman in a sea of men are long gone, at least in our department. And really, in the past couple of decades, we've made some impressive strides. In the 70s, Title IX gave educational equity for the sexes, and then in the 90s, there was a really important study that came out of MIT that really revealed how women faculty were feeling in that institution, and then universities since then have become more sensitive to the needs of female faculty. And perhaps most encouragingly, women are getting more and more STEM doctoral degrees every year.
And while these successes are great, they're not translating to the faculty level quite yet. Female faculty are still far and few between. And just what do we think of these women that are in STEM? Do we portray a positive image that really will encourage younger women and girls to pursue careers in STEM? Honestly, right now the answer is no. Women in STEM are still seen as bossy, as unable to prioritize the important things, and they're seen as socially awkward.
So when it comes to recruiting women in STEM, there's definitely a we can do it attitude, and there's a lot of efforts placed on this step in your life, like an undergrad. But then when women are asked about what it really takes to have a career in STEM, it turns out that their standards are really high. And maybe this makes sense because there are studies that show that women have to be more successful in their STEM careers than their male counterparts to be viewed as equally competent.
And you would think that this would make us all gung-ho and let's go women in STEM. But really, think about it. How many women in your department do you know? And how many do you call your friends?
So Katharina and I decided that we should ask some of our friends and colleagues what they thought about these issues.
So Jane brought up the point that, women and men really do have different approaches to problem solving. And women just need to recognize that it's okay to be different.
And Shadi pointed out that having a female PI really encouraged and inspired her throughout her training. And then maybe the same process could be used to retain other women in STEM. And then we could certainly talk to STEM professionals and try to find out how they navigated the tricky waters of their career.
And Kristen pointed out that maybe part of the problem was that we're holding each other back. So if we really learn to support and encourage each other and acknowledge each other's achievements, perhaps by knowing each other's talks, thesis defenses, we could really change the work environment.
So after a couple of meetings and a lot of really good wine, we came up with what we thought was a very exciting idea. We should really look at what's happening at the top and try to change it from something like this to something more like this.
What if we could make this difference right here in graduate school?
Just imagine that when a woman enters a grad program at STEM, she automatically gets connected with a whole network of like-minded women.
And what if she can then reach out to those women for support and for getting further in her career?
And now just imagine that that network would reach back to her, not only for support, but for career opportunities, and so everybody would be advancing in their chosen career paths together.
And now imagine if this relationship building was not only happening for her, but was happening for many women within the network.
This is the culture of STEMinism that we envision. And we think it's possible to get there by forming a network right now in graduate school.
And this is an effort we have started affectionately calling GWEN, or the Graduate Women Empowerment Network.
And we know that female leaders in STEM one day are going to be very commonplace.
And we believe that this change can happen in our generation.
And what we're doing is asking you to join us and support these efforts by joining us in GWEN.
So thank you.